Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my review of Liza P. Overture. When I say review, I'm going to speak on a topic that is always being addressed whenever you have a Souls-like game, if you want to call it that. Um, now, I did get on this game kind of late because I was in grad school. I was doing a lot of stuff, so I didn't have time to play as much as I wanted to. But of course, I beat the game, and I'm excited. I got it done before Wu Kang, Feathers, whatever it's called, come out. That come out tomorrow. I'm excited about it. Depending on when you see it, it could be today because I'm recording this late. But at any rate, the of course, when I looked at some reviews of the game after I beat it, the same old debate came up about whether the game is too hard. And of course, the DLC is harder, um, and it needs to be toned down a bit. And I'm gonna give my honest opinion, and it's subjective, and it's my opinion. In my opinion, the game is not too hard. The difficulty for Liza P. Overture is not too hard. And don't get me wrong, I am not one of those Souls like fanatics. Even though I love Souls like game, if you look at my videos, you'll see a whole bunch of them. I played a lot, but I'm not one of those people who just go on and on and on about you know you got to get good. Oh, the game's not too hard. There's something wrong with you, or it needs to be hard. It teaches you about life. I've always thought people who thought like that is crazy because if a video game teaches you about life, then life is not life for you. That's ridiculous. Games are for fun. Now, that's not to say I don't like a little bit of a challenge. I do, but I don't like, when games are excessively hard just to, fulfill the ego of someone who lives in their mother's basement, and who just wants to clown people because they spend every waking hour playing video games and they get good at it, while the rest of us got to go to work. And then we want to, come back and enjoy ourselves. But at the end of the day, I do enjoy these soul like games. I do. I really do, as hard as they are. But, back to the whole point of the matter is, the reason I say it's not that hard, in my opinion, that's just my opinion, is that, prior to me playing this DLC, I was playing the first Berserk Kazan. And that took me about 3 months to beat it. Not because, if I was just that horrible at it, but because, like I said, if I was in grad school, so I was not playing as much as I would normally play video games. I didn't have a whole lot of time. I had to go to grad school and work, this took up a lot of time. So I didn't play as much. But at any rate, after playing the first Berserk Kazan, in my opinion, that game is hard. That game was extremely hard, and so when I came to Liza P, of course, when I beat the base game a couple years ago, but when I played DLC, I noticed that these guys did hit hard. I was sitting there thinking, oh man, I thought my weapons were overpowered, but when I got here, I wasn't hardly doing no damage. It's like it was kicking my butt. But, you know, um, after, a few hours of getting used to it, it became relatively, normal, in my opinion. Um, so after playing the first Berserker Zon, I was just like, the game, for me, it just wasn't that hard. And maybe for you, the first Berserker Zon was easy and Liza P was hard. Like I said, it's subjective. It's all based upon your experience. But for me, it was after playing the first Berserker Zon, I didn't think the game was that hard because um, I thought it was manageable and doable. Now let's talk about the bosses. in my opinion, some people are saying that these bosses are too hard. Um, Once again, my opinion, the bosses weren't that hard. Now, the tyrannical predator was a jerk. I agree with most people who did not, enjoy this boss fight too much. And at the end of the day, I had this was the boss that gave the most problems. But then again, this was like my first day of playing the Liza P in like years. So I had the whole uh, trying to get back used to it, and I was pressing the wrong buttons because I was still doing First Berserker Zon controls. Um, so I had a little bit of a learning curve, but at the same time, he was annoying, especially with that grab when he opened his mouth. I hated that. For the life of me, I just could not avoid that thing, except for maybe once or twice, like I did just now. So for the most part, uh, that fight was annoying, and but then again, um, beyond that, even with that boss, it took me about 30 minutes at most to beat him, and just about every single boss I fought in this game, with the exception of the final boss, I was doing like 30 minutes at max. Some was less than 30 minutes, but at max it was 30 minutes to complete what to be a boss. While, when I was at First Berserker Zon, I was averaging 3 hours to beat a single boss. And I'm not talking about after my first initial day of runs, I'm talking about period. so um so for me, this these bosses, were not too hard. But then again, like I said before, it depends on the person. Some of y'all might play First Berserkers on and was beating those bosses the first time and struggle with lots of P bosses. I guess it all depends on your play style. But once again, for me, I just feel as if this this these bosses were not that hard. They weren't too hard. And now, like I said before, the last boss was the one that took the cake. The last boss, in my opinion, was the only boss that I thought that was really, 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 really crazy, stupid, hard, for no reason. And I'm gonna do a video about that a little bit later. But at the end of the day, um, I have to be fair, and I think that they made that boss so hard because the legendary stalker was an integral part of the story, and I think that they ramped it up that hard to make you use her, and she does help. So with that being said, with this NPC, help was not like First Berserker Zon help, where it's like a useless or even, in my opinion, the NPCs you can summon to help in what a game called Elden Ring, stuff like that, wasn't all the greatest either, except for the mimic, the ones you brought yourself, but because I remember when I fought that, what was it named Bell, that big dragon, the NPC was useless, utterly useless. This NPC does help a lot in the battle and make it manageable, and she does actually some nice damage. Um, so they do give you a tool to help you beat it, and while most games, who have these increasingly, I mean, severely hard bosses don't do that. So I gotta give them credit for that. However, for people like me, I kind of want to um, kind of want to beat the boss, the bosses without, the NPCs without help per se. But at the end of the day, I did this one here with the NPC, with the legendary star, because he was part of the story now, and I thought it was going to affect the story. And so, with that being said, it only took me about an hour to beat the final boss with the help of the NPC, the legendary stalker. And someone might say, only took you an hour. Well, like I said before, coming from playing the first Berserker Zon before this here, it was 3 hours per boss. Every now and then I'll find a boss like Risu was so easy and it took me about an hour. But the last boss of the first Berserker Zon took me days as opposed to an hour this one here. When I say days, I mean the first night I played him, no lie. I literally played, and this is during the summer, so I didn't have to go to work. Um, but I still was in summer school though. I literally played. No, I was done with summer school. Wow. I literally played him from like 8 or 9 o'clock that night to around about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock the next morning, nonstop, and did not beat him. And it took me a couple of more days to finally beat him. And there was no NPC you could. Um, well, they did have the little things, the little summons, but like I said, they are useless. So I pretty much, when I say useless, I mean when I tried to use one, it was literally running in place. It did nothing. I mean, literally running in place, and the damage was so minimal, it was like pointless of getting it. But at the end of the day, it took me about 3 or 4 days to beat that boss after a marathon night. So when I look at the grand scheme of things, that to me was excessively difficult. When I fought the Redon on the DLC for Elden Ring, that took me hours as well until I finally had to um, use my mimic, my summon, to beat him. Um, and that still was challenging. Um, so with that being said, I don't think that Liza P is DLC is that difficult. Now the final boss is extremely hard, yes, but that NPC does a lot, help you a lot, so it's manageable. Now, if you want to play a hard game, and if you haven't tried it yet, go play the first Berserker Zon. And then more than likely, but not everybody, because some people, that game might be easy to some people. But after you play that, you will see what I mean. This game was not that hard. Now, I'm not trying to minimize your pain and say it was say it wasn't challenging, because it was. But when after, like I said before, when I came to play this game, it was fresh after me finally beating the first Berserker Zon. So to me, it was like not that hard. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have fun. Tomorrow or today, depending on when you see this, the Wu Kang will be out, and I plan on getting mine first thing in the morning and giving it a whirl. So hope you guys can enjoy. Have a great one.